All right. Here we go back again on the other side of the coin. This is going to be a very, very in-depth episode. I can assure you that. But before we get into all of that, I've got my usual suspects in this particular episode. I've got Mark, I've got Jonathan. We're going to talk everything about Tomori. We're going to try and absolutely, get to the bottom of this, whole situation of him getting loaned to Milan, which I think this looks quite imminent. This is going to happen. There was a whole heap of talk about Leeds and whatnot, but I think this is probably going to happen, and then we'll get into that. But before we get into all of that, first of all, Jonathan, my man, how you doing?
I'm good. As I said before we started, I always look forward to Saturday and talking Chelsea. So yeah, glad to be here.
Nice. And Mark, how are you?
All good, thank you. Waiting for the game. I really hope we get a win today. And then if we win, well, if we lose as well, but whatever happens, then I'll tune up to your YouTube channel again to see you boys, see what you've got to say.
I really hope we win, man, because a loss is just going to be... Let's not think about it. Let's not talk about it. I think it's going to be disastrous if it's a loss. Or even a draw. I don't think draws are good enough either with the whole context of things. But that's a different story. First of all, to everyone that's joined in and everyone who will join in throughout the session and who's going to watch it down the track, thank you so much for taking your time to watch this. While you're at it, please smash that like button. If you're here for the first time, subscribe and hit the bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. Do check out the Fulham preview, which we did yesterday with Jack from Fulhamish, which was quite entertaining, had Yunus and Matisse, so do check that out. The game's just around the corner. But let's get straight into it, boys. The whole Tomori situation. I really want to go through a journey first before we get to this whole topic of AC Milan. And I'll start off with Mark on this. Tomori is someone that Frank Lampard has known for a little while. He was part of his setup in Derby. Player of the season in Derby, one of his main players, to be honest. I didn't get to watch too much of Derby, but I saw a little bit of Derby right at the end when they were in the playoffs and leading up to the playoffs. I really started to get into that, and a whole heap of rumors during that time started happening that Frank's probably going to take over the job. So started watching Derby a little bit, and he was definitely one of the main players for Derby. And as I said, he gets the player of the season accolades as well for them. I mean, just on that, first of all, Frank definitely would have seen. I mean, you don't get to be a player of the season if the manager doesn't have complete trust in you, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It was a bit surprising for me to, at the start of the season, to say, from the start of the season until now, to see that Tomori hasn't had minutes to play, especially after what we were talking about. I really don't know. Something that we discussed a few weeks ago here in this channel, the three of us, was that I was told that there's been something out there where Frank Lampard wanted Tomori to improve, which I'm not sure what aspect it was. I think you've heard about this too, Miss. And I think that's what's put off a bit the relationship between Lampard and Fikayo Tomori. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Jonathan, moving from the Derby situation, right? We had the transfer ban. Frank Lampard's walked in. He's brought in Mason Mount. He's brought in Fikayo Tomori with him. Just before the season sort of started, we lost one of our probably most experienced players in the likes of David Luiz. And Fikayo Tomori all of a sudden seems like he's part of the setup. I mean, at that point, what was your thought process going on with that situation?
Yeah, I mean, when him and Zuma played together last season, it was one of our better partnerships. I mean, that away performance against Ajax was, kind of typified how good they were together. I've always been someone that believes, both of them probably both need a strong experience and leader for a partner, but they seem to gel really well together. And Lampard did have a lot of trust in it. Then, Rudiger came back from injury and he started to play him more often. And I think that's where we became unstuck a little bit. But yeah, Tomori kind of went down the pecking order, did play quite a bit last season. But this year, since Thiago Silva's come in and he's formed that partnership with Zuma, he's just not even in the thinking. And, you look at the rumours of, there's stuff going on, behind the scenes. I know Mark knows a lot more than I do, but I read quite a bit about, what it could be. And something's definitely gone on. Something doesn't seem right. Lampard's someone, he does seem to like the players he likes, and the players he doesn't like, I wouldn't say they get pushed aside, but they certainly get pushed down the pecking order. So yeah, Tomori, I'm sure there's something he could have done to improve that relationship and to get more playing time. But yeah, it's a really strange one looking in from the outside, because something's definitely gone on.
Let's work this up instead of going straight to the whole conclusion. I'm trying to build up a story here, because that's probably the best way to understand what's going on here. Mark, so we've obviously Derby, he's done well, he's come to the setup. Johnathan, as he said, that he's been part of Frank's setup in the beginning, had that combination with Zuma. Obviously David Luiz has gone, and let's now focus on that situation where he was really, really doing well with Zuma, to a point where Frank had said that, I remember in one of the press conferences, that he was possibly one of our number 1 or number 2 CBs in the setup. So during that time frame, I mean, how confident were you feeling about Tomori's game? He was playing really well against Wolves. There was that cracking goal against Wolves, or was it Norwich? I think it might have been Wolves. And then there was a string of games where he was putting on some really, really good performances. Obviously, there was that odd sort of error here and there, but nothing that sort of hurt us because his recovery was good. What were your thoughts during that period where he was going through that session with Zuma? Were you starting to feel that maybe we might have just got ourselves a CB here, or were you sort of thinking, we need to get someone experienced?
Mm-hmm. Last season I defended a lot the fact that I really thought that Zuma and Tomori were going to be our CBs for a long time. And as Johnathan said, and you said as well, for me, it was the best 2 CBs you could pair last season. Yeah, Tomori had mistakes last season too, but who doesn't? I mean, he's a young kid. He's pure Chelsea as well. And at the end, that's what fans want to see, right? We want to see players who love the club and play well. So, it does seem like something has gone quite wrong. I don't know if it's an attitude problem or what, but there's something that Lampard hasn't liked. And it's quite shocking, like you said, after the Derby days and last season, that he counted on him quite a lot. Now we've seen Rudiger play, we've seen Andreas Christensen play, but we haven't seen Tomori play. So something has changed. I think that if Tomori is the Tomori of last season, I think he could learn a lot from someone like Thiago Silva, who I consider a football legend at the CB. And we can see how good Thiago Silva has been for Kurt Zuma. And, I kind of wish that Tomori could think a bit of what Thiago Silva has to show as well. But, it is what it is right now. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Johnathan, Mark sort of mentioned that whole period where we were doing well, and then that Rudiger situation happened. He got better with his injury, obviously Christensen as well. I think this is where I feel like was the first hurdle for Fikayo Tomori. I felt like even though we were doing well with the whole Fikayo Tomori and Zuma partnership, something about that whole partnership I felt Frank didn't like. And I think it probably has to do with the quicker build-up. I think there was just too much sideways movements from both Fikayo and Zuma. And I remember Frank sort of saying something like that post-match, and fans have been complaining as well in the build-up that there's just too much sideways stuff that was going on from the CBs. They weren't sometimes looking straight through the middle, which, as we now see with Thiago Silva, as we've seen with Rudiger as well, with the crossfield passes, and even Zuma as well. Do you feel that was probably the first hurdle in Tomori's whole sort of this saga that's been happening, that he might not have appreciated the fact that he probably must have felt inside that he was having a good combination with Zuma, but all of a sudden he was sort of pulled away and Rudiger just came in and took that spot straight after the injury?
Yeah, possibly. It's difficult to tell whether he was able to rise to the challenge. Some players, take that in their stride. Some of them, I'm not sure can. But yeah, I think that there's two things for me. First thing is inexperience. Obviously, Tomori, his first season in the Premier League, Lampard's first season as Chelsea manager. Zuma hadn't played for Chelsea much in the last few years, obviously going on loan. So for that to be a newly formed partnership and to kind of be the base, especially with Kepa behind them, who we know doesn't instill that much confidence in a centre-back pairing. I think the inexperience had something to do with it. And also, Tomori and Zuma, whilst they're great centre-backs, and as I said earlier, I think they pair better with someone like a Thiago Silva, a leader, someone that, takes the lead. But they're both centre-backs for me that don't always anticipate the problem. They will react to the problem. So if you've got two centre-backs reacting to a problem instead of cutting it out like Silva does, you said before we started, there's no smoke. There's no smoke without fire. If you don't put out that smoke, it's going to turn into a fire. And I feel like if you have two centre-backs that react and don't stop the problem before it happens, that's where you are going to have problems. And no, we conceded a lot of goals last season. As I said, I'm not saying it's just up to them two and up to Tomori, because, there's other reasons for that. I don't think Lampard's tactics are still anywhere near good enough. But, to have an experienced centre-back who obviously he liked, he probably took him out of the team when Rudiger came in and challenged him to get better. Maybe he didn't. When he did play, I feel like he did well last season. And we were all scratching our head wondering why it wasn't the centre-back partnership of choice. But yeah, there's certainly deep reasons why. And I think those two things are possibly what was going through Lampard's mind.
No, I think I'm starting to feel, when I look at the whole picture, what you've just said right there, it does make a lot of sense, right? Mark, moving on from that phase where Rudiger was playing a lot more, Andres Christensen was also featuring, and then eventually Zuma started featuring a lot more. And it started becoming that Tomori was just fading away. And I felt like this is what we were saying off air, that was I feel that was the moment or that situation where Frank might have asked for XYZ from Tomori to show a little bit more of, because there was talks back then that, because we weren't that great last season aerially when it came to set pieces, even though with the likes of Zuma and Christensen, Tomori, even though they might have been great in bits and pieces, for some reason in set pieces we were just not good enough. And I know there was reports last season where they were talking about Tomori, his inability in the air, even though he's not a short player. I think he's something around 6'2" or something. It's not like he's short, but for some reason I think he just didn't anticipate, or he didn't understand the flight of the ball as well as someone like Thiago Silva does or Zuma does. Obviously Thiago Silva with a lot more experience, and Tomori probably he's still got a while to learn all of this stuff. But I think, as Jonathan said, it just wasn't good enough at that time with having two inexperienced sort of CBs who are not understanding the flight of the ball. And that's probably one of the reasons why he just threw in Rudiger with that little bit more experience. Didn't help us, but probably that's something that might have forced him to do that. But do you feel during that time frame, right at the end, where Tomori wasn't seeing much, that Frank might have given him some things to work on, and he probably just didn't impress enough, like in the training sessions? Or I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Basically, I think that's it. For what I was told, which again, it didn't have a lot of detail, but what I understood was basically what you're saying. I think Tomori had some stuff to work on, and he just didn't impress it. It didn't impress enough. So, at the end, it's like anything. This can happen in football. It can happen in our work, anywhere. If you have something to improve on, and you just don't impress, and then another one comes in, and you can see he's working hard, and he does improve, and he's getting what you don't get. At the end, you're going to be put aside, and the guy who works on it and impresses is the one that's going to get the opportunity. And this can happen to any of us in our lives, and same thing happens in football. So basically, I think that's 100% what's happened. And then, he's a young kid, and we don't know. I don't know. No one knows, I think, what kind of attitude he has as well. And I think Frank Lampard is a guy who you can't really mess a lot with. And if you have, again, I don't know, but I'm just supposing, like, if you have a stinky attitude, then I bet Frank will.
You're absolutely no chance then.
No. So I think basically that's what's happened. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Johnathan, during that time frame, right at the end of last season, and perhaps earlier on this season, just before the season started, there were also some reports. I'm not sure if you've seen. I think I'm pretty sure you would have seen it. There were certain rumors that were coming out that Tomori doesn't train hard enough. He doesn't work hard enough in the training ground. And this also now coincides with what Mark has just said, that, some intel that he had where, he hasn't gone away and worked on some of the things that perhaps Frank wanted him to improve on, and wasn't impressed. And hence now it all makes sense that the reporters are coming out and saying, oh, he hasn't been training hard enough. And then the whole situation of West Ham loan move came about, and that didn't materialize as well. Do you feel during this whole period where Frank might, as what Mark said, Frank's the kind of guy that you don't want to mess with. Either you work hard and you try and improve on it, or he just gets to a point that I'm just not feeling it anymore. And, here's a West Ham offer, here's a West Ham loan, just go and develop yourself. Do you feel that scenario makes sense? Because I just don't understand how Frank, looking at the whole journey, how he trusted this player at one point to a point where, there's a loan opportunity now that has materialized just before the start of the season with West Ham. And it's got to that point. Do you know what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah, I do. I think Lampard knew he had to improve his defence. We bought a keeper. We bought, Thiago Silva in. And maybe, the conversation between Tomori and Lampard, I'm just supposing he said that Silva's going to come in for 2 seasons. This is your chance, Tomori, to do a Zuma. I mean, Shime said it in the comments. Zuma went away, worked on it. Christensen went away, worked on it, and had a couple of loan moves, especially Zuma's come back much better, much more polished all round. Still not, the best centre-back in the world, but certainly a more than capable Premier League centre-back. Maybe Lampard said to Tomori, this is 2 seasons now. You go on loan both seasons. You go to, 2 different clubs. You learn your trade more. You become a better centre-back. And the West Ham move was there. I mean, other clubs were muted to want him. And at the last minute, Tomori says, no, don't want to go to West Ham. I know Rudiger, there was rumours of him leaving. So I think that might have had something to do with it. But, Tomori, maybe the club and Lampard said, you're going. He's now said no. And Lampard's, said, well, you weren't in my plans this season. You're supposed to have gone on loan. You're not going to play.
I feel like this is what happened. I feel like Frank might have said go, and he said, I don't want to.
Yeah, and if your managers, again, I don't know the exact thing, but I'm just looking at it from the outside and thinking that's probably what has happened, because Lampard has reasons for playing players that as I said, the ones he likes, not always the ones in form as we've seen this season. So if you can play someone like Rudiger and Christensen quite often in games where you rotate, and not Tomori, when in my opinion Tomori's got the more potential and is the better centre back of the 3 to partner with a Zuma or Silva. I think it was something that should have happened, and Tomori said no. Maybe because he thought, I'm good enough for Chelsea, I should be playing. Maybe because he just didn't want to go to West Ham. Maybe he didn't think he'd get in the team. But now he's been linked with Newcastle and Leeds, and obviously the AC Milan link, which we'll talk about. I think Lampard's not pushing him in his press conference, saying he's got a future here, and he's publicly came out and said about the loan. And Lampard doesn't normally talk on transfers in or out unless they're signed. So the fact he's talking about him going out on loan is a clear message from me. Lampard saying to Tomori, go on loan, you've got a future here, this is the plan, listen to me and you will play for Chelsea, but you have to stick to, you haven't listened to me the last few months. Now You need to stick to the model and use Zuma, as I said, as an example, who has improved in the air in both boxes. Clearly something Lampard said. So yeah, I hope he does go on loan. I don't quite think Milan's the best option, but yeah, to get to this point, quite a lot has happened, and I think Tomori now has to take it in his stride and take it on the chin and become a better player.
I 100% agree with what you've just said, because that scenario makes sense to me. Because as we've been building this up, right, it must have got to a point for Frank that we're Chelsea Football Club. I'm gonna have quality here. I'm gonna have Thiago Silva. I need to build up my defense. I need to be strong defensively. There are certain things that you lack. Work on it. Either work hard in training ground to impress me that you should be the number 3 centre back, or here's an opportunity for West Ham. Go on loan, work on these things, and work your backside off, and make it hard for me to say that, yeah, I need this player back. And I feel like Tomori probably didn't take that opportunity. He just thought that I'll stick around. I'll try and do my best. And then maybe that's admirable to a point that, okay, fine, this player wants to stick around and work hard. But now, and this is what I want to talk to now, Mark, is he didn't do that. So since the West Ham period, he still didn't do that, because the rumors of him going away on loan is still very big. There was the whole news about Leeds probably going for a permanently. I just feel like maybe Frank just got fed up and just sell this guy. Like, this guy didn't go to West Ham. He hasn't been able to impress me throughout this period either. He's still the number 5 CB for me, because, Zuma and Thiago Silva has been starting. Number 3 is clearly Rudiger. And even when, there is another opportunity, Christensen gets that number 4 spot. So Frank could not have made it any loud and clear for Tomori that, dude, you are number 5 and you're not impressing me as yet. And now here comes the whole situation of AC Milan. Do you sort of see it this way as well, that Frank's just got to a point where I have not been impressed by you? Since the West Ham loan period, yeah, you stayed around and you sort of said to yourself that I want to fight, but you really probably didn't fight hard enough for warranting a number 3 CB spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that we've said before, and Jonathan has said too. You just can see that Fikayo Tomori doesn't enter into Frank Lampard's plans, at least this season, because I don't know if you've seen it, or if you've noticed, but Fikayo Tomori hasn't been in the bench for a bunch of games.
He hasn't even been in the bench. Yeah,
exactly. So absolutely, I don't know if maybe he's been training hard or not. I really don't know. I do think that as well. I can feel that Frank's character, for example, let's say that what Jonathan has said is what actually happened. I do think that Frank is the type of character that if he wants you to go out on loan, you say no, you can do whatever you want. You're not going to get into the team. So, I think I am in favor of Tomori leaving on loan, to be honest, right now.
Yeah.
I think it's better to see him play than to see him at home. But we'll get to that. So
no, absolutely. Let's now get to that. We're here now. We'll build up the whole picture. Mm-hmm. Jonathan, so we're at a point where AC Milan has now knocked on the door. We've painted a picture which starting to make sense to me, because I guess all the fans have been sort of wondering, why isn't Tomori playing? Why is Rudiger still number 3? Why is he? There can't be any other explanation, because Frank has been giving opportunity to the lads, younger lads, left, right, and center. He's been giving Billy Gilmore an opportunity. He's been, obviously, Mason Mount is one of his favorites. Reece James is getting games. Tammy Abraham is getting games. Everyone pretty much is getting games. So this has to be the only possible explanation that he has not been impressed with Tomori since last season, with the competition, with the things that he wanted him to sort of work on, he hasn't worked on. So now, Jonathan, AC Milan has come across, and our transfer guru Fabrizio Romano has been reporting that this is imminent. This is going to happen. Like Milan's quite interested. Tomori's quite interested as well to get this done. But apparently there could be a buyback option here. Now, this is where I want to start talking about to you, two things. One, is AC Milan really a good place for Tomori to go and try and establish himself and possibly make a comeback one day back to Chelsea? Because I don't know, I don't follow AC Milan so much. You boys help me out. What sort of, because I think they have Romagnoli, the Italian centre back, Italian number one centre back. And Italy is a place known for big centre backs. Like they produce centre backs over there. So what I want to understand from you, your sort of opinion, one, is Milan the right place for him? And whoever they have in Milan, is he even going to start? Two, the whole buyback situation, which, Fabrizio Romano has mentioned that there could be a buyback clause here. What's your whole thought process around that?
This is perfect. This is exactly the topic I want us to talk about. So love that you chose me for this. Baggy said about the 26 million option to buy from Milan in the comments. I haven't read too much about buyback, but it's a few days ago. I think it was the 11th. I've got it here. Fabrizio said there's a chance for Tomori. He'd accept AC Milan. But the main target for Milan is Mohamed Simakan, which, he plays for Strasbourg in the French league. Only if the deal collapses will Tomori be the option. He now tweets yesterday in the morning, I think. He said on the 14th that talks are progressing. There was Chelsea have asked for a loan with a buy option. Negotiations were going on. He then says yesterday, the Milan director Massari always wanted Tomori, especially when he was, when Massara was working at Roma. He said negotiations are now in an advanced stage of Chelsea to sign him on loan with a buy option, but not an obligation, around 30 million euros. And AC Milan are hoping to complete the deal in the next few days. Now, I haven't seen anything on Fabrizio's Twitter until I looked 25 minutes ago.
Is there something on?
Yeah, 25 minutes ago, he said 5 days later, Tomori is getting closer to AC Milan from Chelsea. The deal is at the final stages, as announced this week. Leipzig are working to sign Simakan, who obviously Milan were wanting because Upamecano, I think I pronounced it right. Obviously, he's going to leave. Yeah, he's going to leave in the summer. Leipzig are very shrewd business-wise, so they're going for him, which opens the door, obviously, for Tomori to come in on loan with the option to be bought. So obviously, there's no obligation, which is interesting because Frank Lampard obviously goes out or comes out in a press conference and says, I want him to go on loan and he has a future at Chelsea. Maybe that comment from Lampard is a ploy to try and get either the loan deal pushed through to Milan, the buyback or the obligation to buy price up, maybe. I don't know. But obviously, I've talked about that. Let's talk about AC Milan centre-backs. I do watch the Italian league occasionally. It's not my most favourite league.
No idea. I have zero idea.
For me, I'm always someone that, you can love or hate Ibrahimovic, but wherever team he goes to, I'm always interested. I've read his books. I think he's a funny character. They're top of the league. And the fact that Juve aren't top of the league is crazy. It's one of those leagues where generally the same happens every year. So when it doesn't, I'm quite interested. So I have watched a bit of it. And their centre-back partnerships, Kajar, I think his name is, and obviously Romagnoli that you talked about. There's 17 games in Serie A this season. Kajar's played 12 of them. Romagnoli's played 13 of them. They are centre-back partnership here to stay. I don't see Tomori displacing either of them in the league this season. He may play in the cups, and obviously they've got 21 games left. So he may get some game time, but he's not going to be number one centre-back. Unless Milan are looking to loan him in, see how he does in training, see how he does in games, and then buy him, I don't see the point of him going there on loan from Chelsea if Chelsea have a long-term plan for him. For me, the Newcastle and the Leeds rumours, not so much Leeds, but I think Newcastle especially would have been a better destination because he'd certainly get in their team. It's a Premier League. He doesn't need to adapt. And as I said,
I think they play with CVs as well, Newcastle.
They do. And I mean, they switch between 4 and 5. I think Bruce has switched it up because of, he's been under pressure from the fans and from the board, I think. So he has switched it up. But for me, the Italian league, and I read so many comments, and I do watch the odd game. The emphasis in the Italian league is all about defending. It's about not letting other teams score. So that's why they've had so many great centre backs. And Tomori, to be, I wouldn't say Milan are a defensive team, but they're not as attacking and open-minded as Chelsea and as Lampard would play. So if he's just going to be loaned there for 6 months or 18 months and come back to Chelsea, it's a completely different league for him to get accustomed to. And, you know, even Chris Smalling went on loan to Roma from Man United, and he was talking last season about how different it is, how everything is, the structure of the game is completely different. That isn't really going to help Tomori in the long run for the Premier League, because
I don't think so either. Yeah.
So, you know, if he's going to Milan, in my opinion, as much as I'd like him to have a future at Chelsea, I think he will either end up at Milan. Yeah. I don't see him coming back to Chelsea. You know, we're going to have to replace Silva in a year or two. I don't think Rudiger and Christensen are those men. You know, if we maybe look to the youth academy to get 1, 3rd, 4th choice, we're going to have to buy 1 or 2 players. So after all this, and Fabrizio Romano is obviously someone that everyone trusts. If it was someone else, I would be, you know, dismissing it or taking it on the chin. But for him to be saying this 25 minutes ago, I think it's going to happen. We obviously don't want 5 centre-backs. Someone has to leave. So yeah, I'd say long term doesn't make sense for me for him to come back to Chelsea. Short term, I don't think he's going to get that many games at AC Milan.
Yeah, no, fair point, man. Mark, the picture's building nicely around here, right? With the whole Tomori thing. I want to throw in another player, Mark Guéhi. There's been a lot of praise coming from Chelsea backboard, and even Frank has been saying, and apparently a Chelsea scout is consistently going out there and checking out Mark Guéhi, and they're very, very impressed. He's got the beast structure, he's left-footed, he's got great ball playing ability, but what they really, really like about Mark Guéhi is that aerially he's another beast. You know, similarly to sort of Zuma's Zuma-esque, you could probably even say. Having said what Jonathan has kind of said, which is what I'm leading to as well, I think if this guy, looks like quite imminent now, he goes to Milan, I think Chelsea just wants to end this transaction. That's why they've got that buyback clause. The buy option for Milan. The only issue I have around this whole thing is, as Jonathan said, Tomori is not going to start for Milan. Milan's quite solid at the back. And if he's already got some sort of these training issues that all these reports have been coming out, and he hasn't been able to fix stuff that Frank has wanted him to fix, I mean, this player really needs to go to Milan and really need to worrying about his future, because I feel like, as Jonathan said, there is probably no future, even though Frank has said that you've got a future in Chelsea. I don't really think there is, because not everyone's going to make it. There's Mark Guéhi, as I said. There's Zuma. Silva's probably going to stick around for another season. There's been rumors, which you've mentioned in this channel, in this particular segment, about Jose Jimenez and how imminent that is. What's your thoughts? I mean, this player really needs to figure out where his career is going,
Yeah, I do have a few things to say too about this topic, and I'm glad you're asking. And the thing is, I also have seen quite a lot of AC Milan and Inter Milan this season, to be honest.
Nice.
It's 2 squads that I think they've got quite a lot of quality, and I like to see them play. You know, when it comes to CBs, in AC Milan right now, they've got Alessio Romagnoli, like you guys said, which is a really good CB. Then they've got Simon Jai, I think his name is. And you know, I kind of can see Tomori play at Milan. Maybe not starting every game, but I can see him play, because Simon Jai is 31 years old. He isn't the quickest CB in the world. The goals that Milan have conceded this season, it's just because the CBs are not quick enough, and they can't go after the striker that's going to score against them. So I do think Tomori is the kind of player, because Tomori is fast.
He's fast. He's robust. He's got that recovery pace. Yeah,
exactly. So I kind of can see that, and it makes sense to me that Milan are interested in him. Then if you think about youngsters at Chelsea, I think Chelsea's academy is really respected in Europe. So I think that it makes sense that they look for a player like Tomori in our academy. And going back to what we were saying, I'm kind of 50-50 here, because I understand that for Tomori, playing in Serie A at a team like Milan calls his attention. If I'm honest, and I was a player, I think it would also happen to me. But however, when I think in the long run about what is better for the club, project, being a player that, as Frank has already said, we count on him for the future. I know that Johnathan right now has said the point of view where maybe this is to make the deal happen. Could be. I really don't know. But what I do know is that if we are planning to get Tomori back, I don't know if loaning him to a different league will be as beneficial as loaning him to a Premier League team like Newcastle or Leeds.
Yeah.
And, as I said before, we are currently in a situation where we can loan a player like Tomori, especially when he's not playing. But here are several things that we have to keep in mind if Fikayo Tomori goes on loan. One, let's say that he plays a lot of minutes, and after the loan, he returns to Chelsea and remains in the bench. He's not going to be happy. So what do you do in that situation? Because you have two options. Either you sell him, or you keep him unhappy, and in the end, he will force an exit. And two, let's say he plays a lot of minutes at Milan. He plays well. It's a different league. The Premier League can be tougher. We recall him. Does that mean we guarantee him a place in the starting 11 for next season or next 2 seasons? Because if so, what happens with the transfers that we were talking about? I'm talking about big transfer names like Jose Maria Jimenez, for example. As I said, I was told that we are really, really interested in his signing for next summer. So the thing is that a player like Jose Maria Jimenez, if you don't promise him to be a starter, he's not going to come.
Then he ain't coming.
Exactly. So are we willing to let a player like the Uruguayan go and bet everything to one card next season? Because, it's a big gamble. That's my opinion.
No, 100%, man. We've got to understand he's only 22. So, we don't know where it's going to go. And I want to go to Johnathan. Look, there's a lot of good about Tomori as well in terms of we've just touched on his pace. He's robust. His recovery is very good. We've talked about how he can be error prone. Every match we've seen of Tomori, I'm pretty sure you guys will agree with this, that there's always been that one odd mistake and you go, ooh, oh my God, we just got lucky there. But the thing about that is that it generally hasn't led to any sort of crazy goals, or hasn't led to us sort of thinking, oh, you know what, that was all Tomori's fault. Besides probably that Bournemouth game last season, just before lockdown, where he did look very, very poor, and Bournemouth took us to the cleaners. But as I said, there's quite a few, good attributes. Do you feel like, and I don't know whether his attitude, how he is, seems like he's, at the end of the day, he's 22, but seems like at the moment, all the stuff that Frank possibly might have said for him to go and do, it seems like he probably didn't do. And I don't know how strong his, mentality and personality is and attitude-wise. Do you feel, you've already sort of said that it's probably lights out for him if he leaves now. But do you feel there is any hope? Because there's some comments here that fans will want to see him back. But do you think this guy could turn things around, and perhaps maybe as age goes on and he can mature and work on some of these things?
Possibly. I mean, Mark made some good points. Is he going to come back and be first choice or be third, fourth choice? Is he going to want that? Is Lampard going to want that? I think, I look at two journeys here of Hudson-Odoi and Tomori. Hudson-Odoi was challenged by Frank Lampard. There was problems there. He seems to have come through that of late and obviously been playing more. Yes, he had his injury, but he's looking a lot more like the player we want to see. Tomori, on the other hand, who probably hasn't taken the stuff on board and is, seeing the consequences now. So, it can go either way. It's the same in life, as Mark said. It's the same in life. It's the same in our jobs. If you don't put the effort in, and your manager's not happy with you, there's going to be problems. So, it's really hard for me to say whether I think he's got a long-term future at Chelsea. I know a lot of people will want to see him because he is a Chelsea boy. And he did play so much in the first season, and obviously Lampard's liked him when he was at Derby. But yeah, it's a tough one because we know he needs to go out on loan, and obviously we have no control over who he's going to go to. But yeah, I think Lampard's obviously got a plan with Jimenez, like Mark said. If I'm being brutally honest, when Silva leaves, it's going to be Zuma and Jimenez if we sign him, or Upamecano, whoever we sign. It's going to be Zuma and one other. So with Rudiger and Christensen, when they go, with Gui and or how we pronounce his name, and Malang Sarr, which Baggy mentioned as well. Maybe that was good business, but with the FIFA rules changing around how many players you can have, how many players you can loan out, Chelsea are not just going to buy players anymore just to buy them and sell them. So why would we get Malang Sarr in or free if we don't have some sort of plan for him? You can't just have deadwood around the squad anymore. That's why Drinkwater's going to be going. That's why we got rid of Piazon, our longest serving player. You can't just bring players in just to have them around and for value and just in case we like the look of them. So yeah, I think Tomori is one that is more likely to leave or to not have a future at Chelsea. But I hope he does, because I've seen glimpses of what he can do well. But as you alluded to, and it hit my mind as soon as you said him about the mistakes he makes. In the first 5 to 10 minutes, he makes one. In the Bournemouth game was a very good example. Recent example. He made some other ones earlier in the season where he just needs to settle into a game. Once he's got that mistake out of the system, he's fine. But if he capitalises on that one mistake and it's a goal, there you go. So and I think Lampard's seen that and thought, I can't have this. And obviously we've improved the defence in many ways. So yeah, it's a very interesting subject, and I think something will happen in the next few days that will decide this. Could this? This is a very interesting comment. Could this?
It actually is a very interesting comment. This isn't too far fetched, is it? The fact that Donnarumma, information came out not that long ago. Now Tomori to AC Milan. Ooh, how Marina is weaving her magic.
I think the thing is, if it was another team, another player with a different agent, I'd say you never know, because football is funny. But with Raiola, he ain't going to let anyone else dictate to him. He's not going to say, sorry, you're using that player for my player. No, thank you very much. Get out. So, yeah, it's an interesting theory, isn't it? But, yeah, I think, it'll be, I think it'll be announced in the next couple of days. So it's interesting to talk about this, because even my mind has been going from point to point as we've been talking and we built this up. So, yeah, it's really interesting to see people's comments. And obviously, when you watch this afterwards, look, make sure that you comment as well, because I always go through the comments when we have shows, and I really do like interacting. So, and just on one comment that I saw earlier, by the way, before I forget, Miz should be the Chelsea manager, and me and Mark as Jody and Co. I want the full-time job. I'm not being an assistant manager spending 20 hours a day. I want the top job. I want the top salary. Forget this. No.
Already there's chaos internally. We can't work like this. But no, that's top comment there from Khan. But yeah, man, Jonathan, absolutely well said. Let's wrap things up with final words from Mark as well. Mark, before I give you the final shout on this, I think I need to admit something here. I probably jumped into the whole case because I tweeted something out probably yesterday when obviously all of these rumors about AC Milan and Tomori. I was just a bit frustrated the fact that how Tomori is not number 3 CB in front of Rudiger and Christensen. But when I sat down and sort of really analyzed this, because this is the topic that I wanted to talk to you guys, I just thought, let me just walk through the whole journey and try and figure this out. I've quickly realized that I don't think we can blame Frank in this situation. There's a lot of things we can blame Frank on. We've talked about in-game management. We've talked about tactics. There's a few things that we can distinctly say that Frank needs to improve on. I think this is one topic where I now generally feel, and having talked with you guys as well, that this is probably not his fault. I think he wanted something from Tomori. He didn't get it. And now it's just come to a situation that we just need to accept the fact that not everyone's going to make it. Not every Chelsea graduate is going to make it. And this could be one of those instances where we part our ways. And, maybe one day he could be it could be a very good CB, but this is where we need to be humble on ourselves. I feel that we shouldn't be looking back on this, even if Tomori turns out to be the next Maldini by some chance. We shouldn't be looking at it and go, oh, here we go, Frank made a mistake. I think it is what it is. Do you sort of feel that way as well about the whole situation?
Yeah, I kind of. First of all, I would love to see. I'm one of those that would love to see Tomori in the future at Chelsea. He's a Chelsea boy, and whoever feels for the club, I wanted to see him play. The thing is, I absolutely agree. Not everyone's going to make it. I think it's actually good news in the fact that a few seasons ago, not one graduate would make it to the first 11, and now things have changed. So. We have to be real. We have to know who we are. We are Chelsea Football Club. We're not a small team, so we have only the best are going to make it. And
True.
If you're not the best, then we're all going to wish you well. But there's no place for you, and it's a bit tough. But it's like that, in elite clubs. That's what you're going to get. You can't just play someone or half someone because we like him, because the fans like him, because the manager likes him. If he's not good enough, he has to go. And that's it. And when I'm saying not good enough, I'm not only speaking about qualities, I'm speaking about everything. Quality, do you have what the
training, the attitude, all of that.
Everything. Exactly. Absolutely. So, I think I really hope to see him one day, but if not, then wish him all the best, and it's better to part ways and not look back.
No, 100%, man. And I think, we kind of sometimes we say that, Frank knew him from Championship days. I think we need to once again humble ourselves in the fact that Championship is a level so far below than Premier League level. Even though Championship's a very good level, it's a massive gap between Premier League and Championship.
Can I add just one little thing to
what I said? Of course.
Also, I've been tweeting a bit about how we are blaming Frank Lampard for absolutely everything. I'm not saying he hasn't got stuff to improve or that we can't blame him for certain stuff, which I think we should. But, we can't just blame him for everything. I mean,
true.
We're going to blame him if Tomori leaves. In the same way, we could blame him if Tomori plays and he does awfully bad in a game. So at the end, not everyone's going to be happy, but we have to be real. And the fact is that, like him or not, Frank Lampard, our manager, knows better than any of us.
True.
And if he doesn't count on Tomori, there must be a reason. He's not stupid. So I really think he knows what he's doing.
No, 100%, man. And this is something I take that as a feedback for myself as well, in the sense that, I think once we sit down and analyze everything and talk things out with other fans as well, get all the different perspective, get all the other side of the coin, I suppose, understand every avenue, you get to a far better sort of conclusion. And I think as we've all sort of made, the conclusion here is that he's just not going to, Frank's just doesn't have him in the plans. And looks like the Milan opportunity is going to be probably done. As Jonathan said 25 minutes ago, Fabrizio Romano tweeting that this is very close. And I hope he does go there and does well. And maybe you never know. You never know what can happen. A season is a long time. If he goes there, let's say he's there for a season and a half, and then does change things around, his mentality, his attitude, everything sort of changes around. You never know. It could be a different scenario. But for the time being, it is what it is. And we've got to start accepting the fact that he's going to leave, even though there's quite a few comments, obviously, we've seen here that he's much better than Rudiger, much better than Andres Christensen. But there are other factors besides playing attributes that determine one's future. So, guys, with that being said, we've come to a conclusion of this particular show. Jonathan, just quickly, we've got the game coming up just around the corner. Your thoughts in regards to score prediction, man?
Yeah, just quickly, one in the comments, someone from Jamaica watching. Really interesting. It's great to see people from all around the world. Obviously, we've got people on in this video, England, Spain, and Australia. I think I did the other way around, but yeah. It's great that, you know, the Chelsea community can come together like this and fans. It's great to interact. That's obviously why it's so fun to do this. And just one thing about Tomori. This guy could win the league in Serie A with AC Milan. You never know.
True.
You know, the
True.
fact that, you know, he's going from, you know, ninth or whatever in the Premier League to top of the Serie A. That's a big step up for him. In all seriousness, about today's game, I've said about it all week about who I want to play. Gilmore. I want to see Hudson-Odoi. Obviously, there's two players I want to see on the team. But for me, it's going to be a tough game. You know, Fulham, yes, they've drawn their last 5 games, but they are a confident team. They're a young team with pace. They transition very quickly. If we're not paying attention and we don't bring our game and we have the right mindset,
we'll get
caught out. And the thing is, for me, there's 2 things here. First thing, if we score a goal early, it changes Fulham's game plan. Yeah. I'm sure they're going to want to soak pressure, hit us on the counter, maybe a set piece or a cross. If we score early in the 10, 15 minutes, they're going to have to change everything. And that they're going to have to come out and play. We could then start picking them off. If we don't score early, and the second scenario is it's half time and it's 0-0, then Fulham are going to go, we've got these guys. They're vulnerable.
Exactly.
We can easily, you know, sneak a goal or take a draw here. Because they'll take a draw, of course. They don't care about six draws in a row. Yeah. So, that team's building nicely under Scott Parker. At the start of the season, I thought they were complete goners. It's going to be a tough game. Yes, it's obviously must win. Lampard cannot afford to draw or lose this game. We have to win. You know, in the form table, last 5 games, we've got 5 points. 4 points, I think even. And Fulham are above us in the form table by a point, which is just mental.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we have to start getting those wins. You know, the reason we are 10 points behind Man United, who are top of the league, we may have conceded 3 less, but scored 2 less, is the last 5 games. That's the only reason they're 10 points ahead of us. The last 5 games have not been good enough for Chelsea. So I know I've just blabbed on for a couple of minutes, but we have to win. And it's 3-1 Chelsea. But, you know, that's my heart saying that. My gut is telling me it's going to be tricky.
Fair point, man. To everyone who's been watching this and who's going to watch it down the track, everything about Johnathan in regards to his YouTube channel, his video, I've also put the link, is his preview for Fulham. Please check it out in the description. Everything is there. His Twitter, YouTube channel, his Fulham preview. Please check it out, comment, and interact. He's a lovely person to do that, and he always replies back. Mark, my man, I've also got your Twitter and your blog. Please, guys, check out Mark's blog. He always writes a lot of really, really interesting articles and something to sort of get your teeth onto. Mark, some final thoughts on our particular match against Fulham?
Yeah, I think we're at a point that even a game against Fulham has to be, we have to go out there like if it was the Champions League final. We're at that point. I mean, we need a result. I really don't care if we play well or not. What I really want is 3 points.
Just need the W, man. Just need the W.
Exactly. 3 points will give you confidence. 6 points will give you a lot more of confidence. And then suddenly you're playing well. So I just think that, as Johnathan said, we have to score early, not rush our play, which is not the same thing. Endless crosses into the box. Please do not come today. And just expecting a win. It's a must-win game. It's a must-win game for us, for the club, for Frank Lampard too. So, I'm expecting a good performance and no surprises.
Absolutely. I'll take this final comment from yes, we move. Look, Jonathan's given his prediction 3-1. He's hoping for a win. Mark wants a win as well. From my perspective, I think the guys have said, look, my heart says it's going to be a 2-1 victory for us, but I won't be surprised if it's 1-0 because I've seen Fulham for the past few games, especially Liverpool, Southampton, Spurs, and honestly, Spurs, they probably should have won at the end. They should have snuck a victory at the end. Liverpool as well, they might have even snuck a victory over there. And Southampton, they managed to keep a 0-0 with them when we conceded 3. So, we looking at our form, we haven't been the best. So this is not going to be easy at all. This is not going to be walk in the park. And Scott Parker, with the 5-3-2 or 5-2-3-1, whatever he's doing over there, he's playing a very good structure for these boys, and he's got them playing to their strengths. He understands now exactly what the team is good at and what they're not good at, and he's playing it to that merit, and they're doing a very good job. So that's all I'm going to leave it to. Hopefully we get the W, which is going to be very, very important for us. And as Mark said, get that win, get the next win, and get into a momentum, because top four is going to be so difficult this season. And perhaps that shouldn't have even been our expectation. Our expectation should have been a bit higher to close the gap between Liverpool and Man City. Now, Man United 10 points ahead of us, which is insane after 17 games. So, guys, with that being said, that comes to a conclusion to this particular show. Please join us post-match. Jonathan will be here. We will have another surprise guest as well for the review of the match. Hopefully we get the win. And until next time, everyone. See ya.